Welcome back to the Talent Talks podcast, where this week I'm delighted to be joined again by Claire Bevan, who is the Global Procurement Director at Dentsu. Claire joined me 3 years ago while we were in the pandemic to talk around her career, background and her story to date. And a lot has happened since then, including driving a global procurement transformation and growing out the procurement function. Claire talks to us today around the challenges that she's faced in that time and indeed the opportunities and the secret to her success of still being at Dentsu over 10 years after she started. So let's get on with today's show. Welcome back to the Talent Talks podcast and welcome back, Claire Bevan. Thanks for joining me again. 3 years ago, nearly, that you last joined me.
Thank you for having me back.
A lot has happened since then. We've had a pandemic, you've had another baby, a house move or two.
Yep, that's right too.
Lots happened.
It's been a busy 3 years. Yeah.
So let's dive into it. So, well, firstly, quite a unique situation because you've worked for Dentsu now for over 10 years, now obviously leading the procurement team. Talk us through the success and that sort of longevity in the role.
Yeah, I joined in 2013, back when technology was the only place to have procurement. So actually we set up procurement in technology back then, so a decade ago. And we were a small team. There were sort of 3 or 4 of us. And I was planning on staying here for a year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I loved the culture. So it's a media advertising organization. So it's been a really nice company to work for from a cultural point of view, but so much to do in procurement because it just didn't exist in the rest of the company. So a lot of opportunities. So I enjoyed the career progression here. I started as a procurement manager, spent a couple of years doing that. And
was that on a certain category or what were you sort of particularly
Yeah, I
looking
started out in, well, it was all technology. So,
Okay.
and I specialized in telco at that point, although ended up working my way around various different bits of technology and became a senior procurement manager for another 2 years. And during that time tried to sort of build out what we were looking after within the technology function because it was enterprise tech at that time.
Yep.
So we were trying to get out into the platforms and what the business was doing. And 6 years ago now, at the beginning of 2018, I was promoted up into the director role then. But that was still technology, but we'd grown out the team and the remit then. I spent a couple of years doing that and grew the remit to include the rest of our corporate functions. So that incorporates finance and legal and audit and comms and HR and all of the other functions came under the team's remit at that point. And I mean, really, that's just been what I've been doing the whole time is working with different parts of the business, growing the network, speaking to stakeholders, proving what we're doing and convincing them to allow us to help them and to manage their spend. And then the final change that I had was a couple of years ago now, 22, I was promoted into the Global Procurement Director role. So now I have the responsibility to manage spend globally. And as part of that, we've set up a procurement operations function, and that's been really pivotal for me because now we're able to support Dentsu globally so we don't have procurement teams in every market, and that's a challenge for us. And that's not going to change overnight. So the procurement operations team helps me to have templates and tools in place to support non-procurement people that are essentially doing procurement to make sure that we're doing things in the right way.
So again, that sort of consistency within reason across the different sectors, different markets for you.
Yeah, exactly. And we also within that team, we look at sustainability in procurement and our S2P platform, which we're using Cooper, so they help us to manage that as well.
So it's like a bit of a Pandora's box. You show value and then you go into the other business sector and it's kind of just grown and pushing the boundaries, I'm guessing, in terms of the value that you can add as your role has evolved then.
Yeah, absolutely. It has literally been a case of I've not stopped because there's still more to do. Yeah. And whilst Dentsu lets me do it, I'm just going to carry on doing it. Of course. So, but I think it is that proving value that you just said. So it's doing that bit more, but showing the worth all the time so that people want you to help. And, I've had lots of situations and still do where people are coming to us and want us to support, and actually we just don't have capacity,
Right,
which is a shame, but we're working on that, and it's all about ruthless prioritization. But I'd rather be in that position now where people know what we do and want our help than the opposite way round, because we've worked really hard to get to this point and to build a bit of a reputation and to know our stakeholders.
So in terms of, as that's evolved, because it's really interesting, because I guess, look, procurement, obviously I'm in the recruitment space in procurement. People tend to be in modern day procurement there a couple of years. There might be an internal move, but generally speaking, they'll then move on externally, find a new role, do a couple of years. For you, as I say, it's quite a unique situation that you've been in the organization for a long time. Your role's expanded. What advice would you give to people that are maybe thinking about, do you know what, I might look externally? Because clearly for you, you've gone, actually, there's lots of internal opportunities. Is there an element of patience for people, do you think? Or what are your sort of messages on that in terms of length of service, I guess, to a business?
I think that most organizations aren't very mature with procurement. So I think that most organizations probably do need someone to stick around and do it. And I think the fact that I've been here for 10 years, I think is a massive benefit to both me and to Dentsu, because I can navigate the company, I understand what we do. So getting somebody new in that, obviously they will get up to speed, but I already have that advantage. And I do think it is an advantage to really understand the business that you're working in. I think it's about patience, and I think it's about working really hard, because it has been hard work here. Like, it's not come easily to me. It hasn't been handed to me. It's because of the work that we've put in. And I say we deliberately, because it's not just me. I've got a team behind me that helps to deliver that. But I think don't expect it to come too easily would be my biggest piece of advice. And be patient and prove it. So go and speak to all your stakeholders and tell them what you can do, but then do what you've told them that you're going to be able to do, and tell them that you've done it as well, because I think it's easy for us to go and start working on a project or a specific part of the business, and it just becomes BAU. And actually I think it's really useful to report back, like, this is what we've done, and this is the benefit that we've delivered, and just so that people remember, because otherwise it just gets lost. I think that that's really important. And it's a learning that I've had is tracking some of this stuff, because at first I didn't. And then it's hard, because if you don't keep track of it, you're doing a good job, or know how much you're working on, but actually it's hard to make somebody else understand that who's not involved on a day-to-day basis.
Just on that point then, do you think that's almost a bit of an internal sort of sales thing for you guys and your team, because you're showing value, but there's a little bit of, you need a bit of internal kind of PR to say, we've done this, we can demonstrate this by X, Y, and Z. Is that something that you've been able to sort of do here? Because clearly they're bought into it, and they're, they've invested in you and your function. So
definitely, because otherwise, how will they know? Like, our CFO is not and shouldn't be involved in the detail of what we're doing. But how would he know what we're doing if I don't tell him? So someone's got to. And you can't rely on your stakeholders to go and give that feedback. And sometimes that does happen, and that's great. But I think it's my responsibility to make sure that it's clear what we're doing, what our purpose is, what we're trying to achieve. That's really important to me.
And the last 3 years since we last sat down and we did the podcast, what would you say your kind of proudest achievements been? Or just more broadly, just in your career, has there been a moment where you particularly can sort of hang your hat on to say that's something that I'm really proud of particularly?
So we won a SIPS award, which is amazing. Obviously a highlight for anyone. So that was great. And a team award, which was nice. So it was the Global Sourcing Project of the Year for work we were doing with Japan. So Japan is our sort of headquarters. They own Dentsu, but historically we'd worked very separately, and procurement were the first team to bridge the gap, as it were, and put together some truly global agreements. So that was great. But actually, I think since then, what I'm really proud of is the business case that I presented back in 22 to our then CFO. He bought into and invested into a 3-year plan for procurement. And that was really hard work, and that really was a team effort. I got all of my stakeholders to help me. By that, I mean, we had legal and technology and security and data protection, ethics and compliance, and all these other teams helping me to pull together the business case and literally putting their words on my slides so that I could quote why we should do this for Dentsu as a business, not just for procurement. And I got the funding and the approval to go ahead with my 3-year plan, and I'm absolutely delighted, and just over a year into it, and it's going really well. So I think for me that feels like the biggest success, because that feels like a step change
100%.
in the way that we're doing procurement at Dentsu now.
Because it's not like, we talk to a lot of procurement leaders where they join a business externally, and then they'll say, this is the commitment we're looking for the business, and they'll say yes, and but you've actually done the legacy piece as well. You've come in, you've built it, grown it, put the business case forward, and then they're trusting you basically to go and deliver that.
Yeah, which is great. And I'm absolutely thrilled.
But that comes with challenges. You know, you've referenced around needing patience in your role, and it takes time, right, to get to where you are today. What would you say your kind of biggest learn's been in your career, or something that you kind of reflect on to think that?
I think, so I mentioned stakeholders. That is absolutely fundamental. And I think if you speak to anyone in procurement, they'll tell you that stakeholders are really important. It's like first interview question, isn't it? Like everyone asks it. But I think I'd go a step further. I think people need to realize just how important those stakeholders are. Like that business case that I presented, I needed the support of the wider business to help me. And I think that's why I was successful. And I think it's about building those relationships, but real relationships. So really getting to know them and what do they need to do? And I had long conversations with all of those different departments to say, like, what are your key priorities this year? And trying to work out where we fit in with that, because then I'm trying to help them to achieve what they need to do. And actually that changes it, like it turns it on its head, because all of a sudden then I'm helping them, not the other way around. And I just can't stress how valuable those relationships have been that I've formed over the years. And some of them are years and years of relationships. And, back to me being here for 10 years, that's one of the benefits that I think it brings, is that you can establish really deep, meaningful relationships. And you know these people, you know what motivates them, and they'll call you if they're upset about something. I think that would be the biggest learning, is to use your network as well as you can, and they'll want you to succeed as well, I think.
Definitely. And I guess also, because it's interesting you say that, because when I sometimes interview people and have discussions, they'll sort of go in with a bit guns blazing sometimes and be like, right, this is the strategy, this is what we need to do, this is what we need from the stakeholders. But to your point, you actually need to get their feedback first of, I presume, what they see procurement as, what's their perception of it, what some legacy history have they had and experiences have they had in procurement, where can you add value, etc. So it's clearly you've obviously understood them before then positioning it back to them, and you need to understand them before you can even start on your project or on a transformation or whatever it may be.
Exactly.
Quick break from the episode. I hope you're enjoying today's show. To keep up to date with our Talent Talks podcast episodes, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This will help build our audience and our mission to raise the profile of procurement. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. So in terms of that, with transformation, something that you've been obviously talked about, your 3-year sort of plan and strategy that you've been doing, what do you think are some of the kind of key ingredients to really deliver a successful transformation?
Okay, a couple of things. So the first is the absolute clarity of what it is that you're doing. So what does a procurement transformation mean?
Because the word transformation can mean
anything.
Like it's quite broad.
So what are we transforming? Is it? Are we looking at the commercial part of it? Are we looking at specific categories? Are we looking at the structure of the team, the org chart, how it sits in the organization, reporting lines? What is it? So absolute clarity on what we're transforming, and then what you are going to try and achieve. So if I think back to what I'm working on now, I have a very clear vision that is just a simple sentence of what I want to achieve. And underneath that, there are 6 priorities. So 6 things that I think we need to all be focused on to get to that vision. And that is very clear. And my team know it. They should know it. Because we talk about that regularly. And that slide comes up a lot. And that slide has been the starting point for like this year's plan on a page. So that then translates into lots of projects underneath it. And what are the metrics to measure that success? So everything is really clearly going back to that vision. And everybody who's working on it is crystal clear what is expected of them to achieve that vision. They're in their objectives. You know, we're all working towards the same goal. So for me, that would be an absolute priority, is to understand what you're working towards. And then the second bit is the people that you're working with. So I now have a fantastic team. Like, they are absolutely brilliant. And make no mistake, I would not be where I am today if I didn't have an excellent team behind me, because it's not just me.
No, of course.
Procurement is a team sport. And I'm only as good as the weakest person in my team, because that feedback spreads. But we now have an excellent team. I trust every single one of them, and they go off and do exactly what they're supposed to do. But without that, I think you're doomed for failure. So I think hiring very selectively, like be picky, and we are picky when we hire. We know what we're looking for, but it's a strategy that's worked for us over the years, because we've had some really good people working with us, and I think that's another patience thing. You don't take the first person necessarily, take the right person, because this is a long-term plan, and they're part of the face of procurement. They're facing off to your stakeholders, and if they're not doing a good job, then that slows everything down.
So, and I love that, and I couldn't agree more. Someone that also recruits in the space, you know, your people, your everything, right? I think it's really interesting just to pick up on the first point you made there, because again, you see it at times, and I'm sure you see it in other organizations perhaps, or from peers of yours from other organizations, where there's almost like there's the strategy, or there's the vision, or there's the mission statement, and they talk about it and the team get energized, and it always gets tucked away in a box. But I love the fact you'll circle back round on that on a weekly, monthly basis, just to sort of reinforce to your team what's our mission. This is what we're looking to achieve as a procurement team. I love that. I think circling back around all the time is great. And so on talent then, so let's just focus on that a little bit more. You mentioned around, clearly not just hiring the first person, it's got to get the right fit for you, culture, profession, etc. What does kind of talent mean for you, and what do you look for in people then when you're looking to kind of recruit, for talent? What does that mean for Dentsu, and what does that mean for yourself?
For me, it would be, a lot of it is in the soft skills. I think clearly we need, depending on the level that you're recruiting, you need appropriate experience, but actually that would be a bit secondary for me, because having the right mindset, having the right sort of personality, I think it's just so important, because everything that we've said today, that stakeholder piece, so important. So you need somebody who can face off with stakeholders appropriately and have the right collaboration, and that's my number one. I think, is collaboration.
But in terms of, so collaboration, soft skills, understanding, but I presume as well, and obviously looking for an outsider in, and obviously I know a little bit about your business, but there must be a lot of diversity in terms of the stakeholder community, i.e. one business area I'm sure will be very different to another. So is there that in terms of the sort of ability to flex depending on who you're talking to, or is it a bit more of a universal, this is how we do things at Dentsu? What would you say is the...
No, but I think Dentsu, generally speaking, the culture is fairly relaxed, and certainly we're not sort of a mandated culture because of the nature of what we do, which is why collaboration is so important, because there isn't a mandate most of the time for these things, so you do have to have a relationship. I think the important flex for us, and I think this is true in a lot of procurement teams, is is sort of the up and down bit, because you can be dealing with people at the top of the business all the way down to day-to-day running of the business. So I think you need to learn how to adapt your style based on seniority. But I think actually we're just quite relaxed across the way.
And is there times though where you might need someone with certain sort of category or subcategory experience as well, or is that almost secondary to the soft skills that you're looking for with people?
I think at an entry level, I'd be very relaxed about that. Even at a mid-level, procurement managers, I think if it's an excellent fit of personality, then experience would be a little bit secondary, but you'd still want you certainly want some procurement experience, but I think between categories, actually, I think most people are fairly flexible and can jump between categories. But obviously, if it's someone who's heading up one of the teams, like if they're heading up the technology team, then I think I'd need them to have some decent technology experience, because that's so specific. And when you're leading a team of people working in that area, they're looking to you to be an expert. So
there's a trade-off, right? If the business are investing in your headcount and resource, I guess, yes, of course, you want some of the right behaviors and soft skills, but on the same token, if you're investing in your technology, which obviously Dentsu has done an incredible amount of investment in tech, you also need someone that understands. So I guess there's a bit of a balance, isn't there, between the two? Can I ask you about, I was listening actually yesterday to our episode we did before. Sad I am, what I'm spending my evenings doing. But and I was reflecting, because I guess at the time, you were pregnant with your second child. You also, we talked around sort of women in the workplace and are they supported in the right way? Obviously, Dentsu are wonderful, I know, and their policies and what they do. But in the wider level, I know you were sort of saying around, actually, I think the procurement profession and the wider commercial sort of profession can do more. How do you feel that sort of the D&I piece in procurement has evolved more widely, or I'd just love to know your take now on if you've seen that sort of evolve, plateau, decline. What are you generally seeing in the sort of, in the diversity and inclusion piece in, not talking Dentsu, but wider in procurement? I
think what I've noticed in the last couple of years is there's a lot more conversation about it. So I'm going to take that as a positive. What I hope is that has been lifted and dropped into organisations, and that I can't really comment on. But certainly it's part of the narrative now, isn't it? It's talked about a lot. So I would like to think that organisations are getting there, but I think it's probably a challenge because of the economy. I think it's probably a challenge to provide the best benefits to mums and dads, or expecting mums and dads to make that equal. So I think that will be the challenge that I think some organisations are having, is if they can afford to do it. But I'd like to think that the situation's improving, and certainly with the working from home that has happened in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I think that's helping matters as well, because it evens things out a little bit.
Well, even from a legislative point of view, they've got the act coming, haven't they? The Work from Home Act that's kicking in April, which basically means that it's from day dot rather than after, I think it's 26 weeks, where you can essentially apply to do a working from home or a flexible working. Whereas now that new act will mean that from day one, you can ask for that. So I think those things are helping and supporting. Certainly, whether it's single parent or a new mother or indeed father, not just about the mums. I think that's really helping and supporting as well. And I agree. I think the narrative has shifted. I think it's changed. I still think there's more to be done to really embed it in across all sectors, if I'm honest. But yes, I just wanted to, I hope you don't mind, I just wanted to sort of see if you're seeing that's happening more. And that's, good to hear you're seeing that.
But I think working from home must have made a massive difference, because I've had both my children during and post-COVID. I don't know how people did it 10 years ago. I don't know how they did it. So hats off to those people that did. But I do think that must have had a significant impact on probably more mums than dads. But the life that I'm living at the moment, I don't think that I could have done it 10 years ago to get my children where they need to be in the morning and get into London in time to do a full day's work and get home to collect them in time. with 2 working parents. I just don't know how we would have ever managed that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how people used to do it. But working from home helps that, because getting them to the childcare in the morning actually is fairly quick and easy. It's the getting into London bit.
Yeah.
There's
Exactly. And no, I totally agree. And again, since we spoke, I've become a dad, and I can totally resonate. Me and my wife, we both work. She works from home. Obviously, I'm fortunate enough to be able to have that opportunity to work from home as well. But to your point, I don't know how people manage it. So, and you've got to support, I try and support my team. I know you do with yours. It's finding a balance. And I often find those days from home, actually, you get your head down, as you can get some work done in the nicest way possible, without distractions of others sort of naturally wanting to come up to you and have a chat and discuss the kind of work they're on. So, for the listeners that are also, there's a lot of people that are listening that are aspiring to be a procurement director and be a leader of a business and a procurement function. You've given loads of amazing advice and tips today, but is there anything particularly you would say for anyone that's aspiring to progress and grow and become, heading up a procurement function? What advice would you give anyone? I
would say take every opportunity that you can. So if you're in a business that you like and you want to make it there, then stick at it, would be my advice. I don't think that jumping ship to go somewhere else is always the right thing to do. It's get to know that business as well as you can. So take every opportunity you can in that business. It doesn't have to be procurement stuff. It can be anything. So if I think about even now in the position I'm in, I still apply this advice to myself. I'm currently mentoring 2 people internally who aren't procurement, it's, I'm there to help them, but actually I'm learning a lot about what they do in our business, which is great because we're a massive company. So I can't know the ins and outs of everything, but it's a good way for me to get to know a bit more about what the business is doing, whilst also helping mentor those individuals. And as a mentor, I get something out of that anyway. Are you learning? It's just on that, because I totally agree. I did a LinkedIn post about mentoring the other week and how it's a really good thing for people to do. Do you get something out of it from a professional satisfaction, you're supporting people's development, but do you also find that's are you learning as well with that in terms of mentoring? Yeah, absolutely. I found that, absolutely, because you hear about their problems and you sort of, it forces you to think about things that you wouldn't have been 100%. Thinking about, and how might I deal with that. But even culturally, so one of the guys that I'm mentoring is in Egypt. And there's a huge cultural difference, and that's actually really interesting to understand some of the ways that he works. So no, it's absolutely great. So take that opportunity. If something like that comes your way, or if it's the other way around and you get offered to be mentored, take that opportunity. I'm judging at the moment, so we do internal awards, and I'm in the round of judges to sort of do the first pass. Again, really interesting experience. It's extra time in my day, but I've chosen to do it because it's a really useful exercise for me. So I think it's any of these opportunities that come your way, I would say take them, because you learn so much just about business, not just about procurement. Some of those opportunities might be external, go to events, speak to people, understand what they're doing. It's just every day is a school day. Just keep learning. I think it's about keeping the enthusiasm and the energy levels up, which I know I've tried really hard to do, even with 2 little children. I really try to just keep going, because, and I think that's what just keeps powering me on. So I think keep learning. Don't assume you already know it all, because I think I'm just going to carry on learning until the day I retire. That's my approach to it. Take your opportunities and work hard. Great advice. It's not going to come easily. You have to work hard, but it'll be worth it when it comes. Great advice. And just to finish with, you mentioned around, you're learning all the time, you're doing, you're very busy day-to-day professional, and I know also in your personal life. What would you say the biggest driver is for you now? I believe in what I'm doing, and I enjoy it. And so I just want to keep doing, whilst ever there's stuff to be done, I think I just want to keep doing it. It's interesting because if you'd asked me 7 years ago what my career plans would be, it probably wouldn't have been this, because
Really?
I never saw
Okay.
myself. So when I started here 10 years ago, I didn't even see myself in the technology procurement director's position. I didn't think I wanted
Really?
it because I was quite happy at the level that I was at. But for me personally, what I found is when I've sort of exhausted what I'm doing there, then I just want to do a bit more and just keep going. And so it's just led me to just this incremental growth that I've seen in 10 years at Dentsu of just growing what I'm looking at. Yeah.
It's almost like you're pushing the boundaries in a really positive way, and then it's...
Because I can see what we're doing and go, oh, this is great, actually, because if we do that, then that will mean that, and that helps us there. And so whilst ever I see those opportunities, I just can't let it be. I just want to keep going. So that is my motivation.
Amazing. Isn't that a life lesson, that if you can see the company where it can add value in its mission and its vision and you get on board with that, you know where you are. Brilliant.
Yeah. And that's the message that I've sold to our exec, that's what we're here to try and drive.
Yeah.
So
amazing. Look, it's brilliant to watch you flourish and grow, and it's been really great to have you back on the show and hear about the journey you've been on. So thank you. Look forward to seeing your plans for 2024 and beyond. And thanks again for joining me again.
Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Claire.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed today's show, and we'll be back soon with more Talent Talks podcasts. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe button on your favorite platform. See you soon. Take care.